So apparently it's a done deal. Mauricio Pochettino is now the U.S. men's national coach. And per the usual for U.S. soccer, we're announcing it like right before the game. It can't be just like this big to do. You know, I talked about when Dybala went to Roma and they had that huge where it just overlooking Rome and then the fireworks. I mean, just incredible welcoming to Dybala. And of course, we're just like, oh, hey, right before the New Zealand game, Pochettino has signed on the dot, which it happens when it happens. We can't complain, and we're all super excited about it. And everything that has gone wrong up until now, and even through tonight, who cares about the New Zealand game tonight? It's not going to matter. We are going into a window now, heading into the 2026 World Cup, where we hope that Pochettino coming in sets fire and starts completely over. I just assume that there are no starters. There's nobody on the team. And unfortunately for the U.S. and for this particular team, there's only so many people that are going to be in the mix for most of the spots on the team, right? But there are going to be in the next couple years some players that are either going to be pushed to become better players, better leaders, fit into a system that is going to compete at a national level outside of just playing CONCACAF type teams. But the expectations and the execution hopefully are going to be just completely different. Now, is Pochettino going to be the end all answer to everything that we need? Who knows? The biggest answer going forward now is going to be one to where we finally have moved on from a very limited view of expectations and who the type of the coaches are going to be in control of these teams. The exciting thing is you saw it on the women's side, right? You go out and get arguably one of the best female coaches for the women's game. And that kind of really set the stage for Crocker to go out and be like, we're hosting the World Cup in a couple years. No doubt this roster and potential players coming up that are even younger than the ones that we have now, it's a talented group. Now, whether they have the heart, the fire, the competitive spirit, the leadership, we're going to find out. We're going to get all of those answers. There's been a lot of leading up to this point. A lot of the blame especially with the fans, a lot of the pundits or whatever had always had this scapegoat in Greg Berhalter, in that he was the one holding everybody back. And I think the longer he was here and then he got renewed after the last World Cup, and we started seeing the same kind of fight or lack thereof from the players, that all of a sudden I think the fans, the guys that are out there talking U.S. men's national team soccer, we started also questioning the players and the heart of the players, how much fight that these guys have in it. And even past players on this team kind of making fun of the whole golden generation for the U.S. These players now that are kind of just satisfied in making club teams overseas. Some of them starting, some of them getting some minutes here and there, but not what are they doing? What are they have we talked about in the last video, the swagger that a lot of these top players tend to have. And for some reason, a lot of the American players, especially when they come back to play for the crest for the US team, tend to have this swagger that they haven't really earned. Other than I think that they overvalue some of the matches that we've played and have had, and they've handled their business as far as like the Mexico games, which I know Mexico, that's not the best that they've had in years. But the fact is that's still a high rivalry game, or multiple rivalry games that the U.S. has dominated to win. And so you have to give them credit there. But I think a lot of these players overvalue what they have accomplished. And I think most of it really comes from the fact that they can just say, hey, I play overseas. And for a while, that's really good. You know, you always want your players, especially here in the U.S., to have opportunities in the best clubs around the world to get pushed. What we're seeing is once our players get there, there's much better talent top to bottom on these teams. We're just not quite there yet, but we are getting there. There is progress. So one of the huge things for us, and several people have mentioned this has been a coup to get Pochettino. And the more you kind of think about it, and the more you think of the state of U.S. soccer on the men's side, you kind of like, you're like, wait a minute. Is this happening? Is this for real? Is this Pochettino trying to leverage and get a more higher profile job in the Premier League or elsewhere? We saw, like the Spain coach was doing the same thing. Even the England coach was like, I've kind of got some interest in the U.S. team. So it's one of those things to where we're not used to having the popular girl want to go to the prom with us, right? I forget somebody else had said something to that effect. I think it was somebody on one of the ESPN shows. They had talked about being the popular girl now. And it's a strange thing for U.S. fans and even some of the U.S. players. But the best part of all this going forward is now there is zero excuses for these players. And I think that the fandom, the people that support the U.S. men's national team, we're going to give Pochettino a lot of free reign, which I'm sure he was able to negotiate also to be able to do whatever it is that he wants. But we are willing to let him do it his way. But there should be some kind of caveat to that, right? That we should be told on the front end, then what are the expectations that we should be seeing? It's a lot of the stuff that we weren't really given with Berhalter. And especially the second time around after everything that went on prior to the World Cup and the whole mess with Gio. And you're thinking, okay, after the World Cup, we're kind of done with Greg. And then all of a sudden we're told, well, he's the best candidate for the job. We're bringing him back. Even with all of the baggage that comes with him, even with all of the, I don't even know what we're going off of play-wise, other than I guess somebody could make a case that Greg was somewhat successful with this U.S. team, bringing him back, getting him into the World Cup, getting out of the group stage of at least the World Cup. And somebody could make the case that Greg did his job at least up to the World Cup. Now, after the World Cup, I don't know if anybody can make the case that there was any success there. And the good thing about Pochettino coming in And again, this game against New Zealand tonight, looking at the starting lineup at first, I was like, and then I'm like, it doesn't matter. Pochettino's here, and we're going to start from scratch. We're going to let him basically evaluate. I can't see Pochettino taking anything from the previous coaching staff. I mean, nothing. Right? He's going to come in. He's at such a different level than what we've had here that nothing that existed prior to him signing today is valid or exists right now, other than like film, right? So he's going to be able to go through a ton of film for all of these guys. And I think you're going to see a much different compete level. You're actually going to see guys kind of looking over their shoulders. And it's different at this point than it was as we were leading up to the last World Cup, where some of the windows, Greg bringing in guys, MLS guys or whatever, and you're just like, what is going on? What's the deal with the roster? We're going to kind of get back to that, but it's going to be at a completely different level, to where I think what you're going to see is there's a certain baseline that's going to be kind of at the level to where players like Pulisic have set the bar for national team performance. And again, Pulisic's not perfect. He hasn't had a perfect run for the national team, but that's going to be to where Pochettino, and somebody like Pochettino, who has seen the best, he has coached the best, his expectations are going to be the best. He's coming in not to just get out of the group stage. I have to think that he wouldn't have taken this job if he didn't think and he didn't have the analytics behind him to show that if it's done his way, this team in 2 years should be able to compete to win the World Cup. I said it. I said it. Whatever realistic expectations are, you have to, how much are you paying him? This is one of the top coaches in the world. The expectations are going to have to be, you're in the mix to compete for the next World Cup. And how exciting is that for especially us fans? I'm hoping to see turnover. I'm hoping to see some of these guys stressed out. There's a little bit to maybe going a little overboard or going too hard on some of the players. That's something that you leave to the coach. You're going to leave to Pochettino to figure this out. But we're to the point now to where you bring in a coach, and let's say there are games or windows to where a player like Pulisic, a player like Reyna, Weah, McKennie, they don't see any time because they were not performing. Their compete level wasn't there. They're going to be held accountable. And I believe that we can start holding players accountable no matter what the name on the back of their jersey says. We can hold players accountable because our talent level has gotten better. And we're going to see some of these younger guys come up and push and compete. I am so excited. I'm very happy to kind of turn the page, and like everything negative, especially coming out of this past weekend with the Canadian game, all that just kind of goes out the door, because we're handing the keys, we're handing the torch, and we're handing the fuel to Pochettino, and we're saying, have at it. It's all yours. And the bottom line is we want to see results in 26. Outside of that, whatever you decide, whatever you want to do. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be great. I'm so glad we're finally, Pochettino is here. It's done. For real, it's a done deal.